With this lesson, let's get started with voicing 2-5-1s in minor keys. Before, when we did 2-5-1s in major keys, we had in the key of C, for example, minor 7 chords voiced as this, which would become a major grip from the flat 3. Dominant chords, which would be Lydian grip from the flat 7. And then major chords, which were minor grip from the flat 3. To voice our first minor 2-5-1, we really only need 2 new grips, and they're very similar to what I just showed you. Instead of having D minor 7 in the key of C, it would be D minor 7 flat 5. And the only thing we need to change is make the 5 of the chord flat. So now, from a grip concept, what we had as a major grip from the flat 3 now becomes minor major from the flat 3. Okay, because the minor major chord is 1, flat 3, 5, major 7. And actually that's a very common sound in jazz. Everything stays the same except the middle finger down like we were doing in our major keys. And now we have a flat 9 voicing. We have root, flat 7, flat 9, 3, and then the 6, which we'll call 13. So it's a flat 9, 13 voicing. But again, you can use that just if it says, G7 flat 9 or what have you, dominant flat 9. Okay, now let's give this a name, and we'll call this a diminished major 7 grip, because right here is a diminished triad, 1 of the grip, flat 3 of the grip, flat 5 of the grip, and here's a major 7 above the grip. Now, normally in a diminished arpeggio, you think of it as being fully symmetrical with root, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7. Well, when that diminished arpeggio creates its scale synthetically, it does that by creating a whole step above every chord tone. So, and that's how you get the scale. Okay, instead of having the double flat 7, we'll substitute the major 7 as a scale tone. And that's a great sound. And it also can be moved around, but we'll talk about that for later. Okay, so here's all you have to do. Minor major grip from the flat 3 for our half diminished chords. Diminished major 7 grip from the flat 7 for our dominant 7 flat 9 chords. Then or use the same voicing that we did for any minor chord, which is major grip from the flat 3. So here it's a C minor, flat 3 is E flat. Voila. Okay, so in context, D minor 7 flat 5, aka D half diminished, G7 flat 9, C minor. Now this particular voicing, which is really our good first call voicing for minor 2-5-1s, it implies the diminished scale. Let's mine this grip for what we can get out of it, because it's very versatile because of the repeating nature of the diminished scale. So in this case, we were using this diminished major grip from the flat 7, but you could use it from every chord tone other than the root. So that would be the 3, the 5, and the flat 7. And then instead of the root, it would be from the flat 9. And really what that means is that we're repeating this grip up or down in minor thirds. So here's the flat 7. Up a minor third is the flat 9, which is a half step above the root, right? Another minor third, we'd be at the third of the chord. And then we could also do that from the 5th. All right, so we have that one voicing in 4 different places, all giving us our G7, right? So let's put this in context. If we did D minor 7 flat 5, then G7 flat 9, we could add more motion. So you see how I just quickly moved up and down using that same grip and got a little bit more motion, and also got some additional color tones from this scale in sound. Sometimes minor 2-5-1s resolve to a sound that doesn't necessarily have the flat 7 in it. It might be just the 6. And what we could do is, instead of the major grip from the flat 3, we could do Lydian grip. And that's also a nice sound. So actually, and a lot of times you can just alternate and move around there and add some motion. Right? But so this Lydian grip that we're using for dominant chords from the flat 7, if we use it from the flat 3, now you have a nice C minor 6 sound, which is a Dorian sound because that major 6 above that flatted 3rd. So in context, now that we have a new way to do minor chords, we have minor 7 flat 5 using minor major grip from the flat 3 of the 2 chord, diminished major grip from the flat 7 getting us a dominant 7 flat 9, then our Lydian grip from the flat 3 to give us our minor 1. When voicing 2-5s in minor or 2-5-1s in minor, the flat 9 voicing that we learned with the diminished sound is a great go-to voicing, like I said. However, there is another voicing that is absolutely necessary, and that is the one that creates the altered dominant sound. The basic difference between an altered dominant and a flat 9 or the diminished sounding dominant chord is what's happening with the 5 and the 6. So if it says G7 sharp 9 sharp 5 or just G7 altered or anything similar to that, basically it's telling you that you really need to have that altered sound. Instead of having, which gives us the natural 6, we can move it down to the flat 6, which again is the same thing as the sharp 5. And now we get a unequivocally altered sound, which is root. Then the grip has flat 7, flat 9, 3rd, sharp 5, also known as flat 13. Okay, so in context, all right. So let's call that minor 7 flat 5 grip or half diminished grip. Because remember, this is diminished with the major 7. Here's a fully diminished with the double flat 7, and here's diminished with just the singular flat 7, and that makes it minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished. All right, so half diminished from the flat 7 is a way to get an altered voicing, and it's an easy transition from our 2 to the 5 to the 1. Now, that new voicing that we just did, minor 7 flat 5 from the flat 7, is perfectly good. And by the way, that's in Abersalt's handbook that I referenced in an earlier video, so check that out too, under his minor 2-5-1 voicings. But you know, with our Lydian grip, we actually have a way of voicing that too. Because if we're doing G7 without the alterations, or G7 13, we would just use Lydian grip from the flat 7, right? Remember, 2-5-1's a major? But if we take this F Lydian grip and move it to the 3rd for it, which in this case is B, it gives us all the alterations that we'd want. So now in context, we'd have this. If we took this B Lydian grip and and then put this in second inversion, it'll sound pretty good too. So here we go. So again, the two grips to get you up and running at voicing the alter dominant chord are the minor 7 flat 5 from the flat 7, or Lydian from the 3. And you want to be able to do all of your voicings in type 1 or type 2. So here's that Lydian in type 2 again. Well, that's really only one note different from our minor 7 flat 5 voicing. And so really what's happening is you can use interchange them. Or maybe like this. Get a little more motion out of it. So again, what's happening is this is the flat 9. That's the sharp 9. So just as with our minor chords, getting a little free, cheap, melodic motion there. Likewise, we can add some motion with going between these two grips. Like that. The last thing to share on this lesson regarding 2-5-1s in minor keys is another way of voicing our C minor. Now, our first call for minor chords is major grip from the flat 3. Then we learned that we could also use Lydian grip from the flat 3. And that gives us our C minor 6. Now, if we wanted the C minor major sound, which is a very important sound, we could just make our middle finger go up instead of down. And that gives us our minor major. So that's really nice because it's root, flat 3, 5, major 7, and 9. So in context, that could sound like